Welcome to Raiders of the Lost podcast. James here. Let's do a mini review on the horror film Smile, which came out this year. I've really enjoyed this. It's one of my favorite horror films of the year. We've had a great year for the genre. I mean, with The Black Phone, Nope is technically a horror movie as well, Smile, lots of great films that have been coming out. And this film in particular, on a budget of $17 million, has grossed $187 million worldwide. That is crazy success, and this is clearly going to be a franchise going forward. If you haven't seen this movie, I'll open it up a little spoiler free, but then, I'll get into spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. I think it's still in theaters. On IMDb, it's a 6.8, which I found to be pretty damn low. I mean, I would give this movie probably an 8.5. I liked it that much. Rotten Tomatoes, it is a 78% critic score and a 78% audience score. Now, synopsis is, after witnessing a bizarre and traumatic incident involving a patient, Dr. Rose Cotter starts experiencing frightening occurrences that she can't explain. As an overwhelming terror begins taking over her life, Rose must confront her troubling past in order to survive and escape her horrifying new reality. This was directed by Parker Finn, and really great performances all around from basically a bunch of actors I've never really seen in anything before, except for one actor in particular who plays A-Train in The Boys. So Jesse T. Usher was in this film, but Sosie Bacon is the lead as Rose. We also have Kyle Gallner as Joel, and Caitlin Stacy as Laura Weaver, who is basically the main part of the trailer. Now, this movie, it's really similar to It Follows. If you've ever seen that movie, I highly recommend it. I'm probably going to get into a little spoiled territory now, so just a warning. So especially with It Follows is about this basically a curse that gets passed through sex. It's kind of like a horror curse STD, where if you have sex with somebody, you will be followed by this invisible being that no one else can see except for you that comes to kill you nonstop. And it shows different forms of people, either from your memory and your past, or people you know, or just random people, and it's coming for you constantly, and it won't stop until it kills you or until you pass it on to somebody else. And it seems like it's like an STD that you can never get rid of. The only thing you can do to hope to survive is to keep passing it on, so that hopefully you become far away from the chain reaction of the death that this curse causes. Now, Smile is very similar to that, which I know maybe some people thought, like, oh, this is just like It Follows. I think it's very similar, but, I mean, what's one slasher movie compared to another slasher movie? A lot of them are the same. They're still really great. I mean, Scream and Halloween, it's kind of the same. We have a slasher with a mask. There are tons of those. I love cursed movies. I love sort of possession movies as well. And the number one thing I want from a horror movie every time I see one is show me something I've never seen before. Show me something new, something unique. This film did this. Now, the way this curse finds you and takes over your life is you witness someone who had this curse kill themselves in front of you. And it's basically like this demon kind of possession where this demon or this being is tormenting you for a few days, or as long as like a week to 10 days. That's how long people last. And then in the final moments of your life, when it decides to finally take your soul or kill you, is they will take control of your body and put on this horrific smile, just like the most terrifying, evil, like sinister smile, ear-to-ear grin you could think of, which led to great marketing, great posters, a great trailer. We all remember during the MLB playoffs, they had people on the stands wearing a bright yellow shirt that said Smile, with the actors who were paid to go there doing this creepy smile. Great marketing campaign. I think it's one of the reasons why it almost made 10 times its budget. It did make 10 times its budget. But it's a really disturbing image. And, they were teasing this for a while in theaters, and we finally got the full-length trailer. Looked really interesting. And this being, once it starts doing the smile, that means it's taken over your body. Then it must kill you. It must kill its you inside of its body itself while it's taking control of your body in front of somebody else. They have to witness this horrific suicide. And it has to be horrific. It has to be traumatic. That's key to the success of the transfer of the possession. And then the person who witnesses the suicide gets the curse upon them. And so the main character, Rose Cotter, she is a clinical therapist working in a hospital, and one of her patients, a new patient, comes in, is trying to tell her that things are going wrong with her life. She's being possessed. She's being tormented by the spirit. Eventually, the spirit takes control of her, kills herself in front of Rose. Now, Rose then becomes possessed by this smile demon who's tormenting her in her life, making her go crazy. She's seeing things. She's doing things that she doesn't remember. And she's basically being isolated by the possessed spirit from her family and her friends until it started to take its toll on her. And I think there are great themes in this film about mental health awareness, and suicide. I think that's one of the main motifs of the movie that it's bringing awareness to, as well as being an effective and highly original horror film. I think this movie was really, really well directed by Parker Finn. Let's see if Parker Finn, what else has he done? So Parker Finn also made, director, Laura Hasn't Slept, The Hide Behind, and so that's it. So he made 2 short films before this, then he made Smile. So I think this is a great entry for basically, you could say, his debut film. And it was really impressive, really great execution, lots of interesting camera work as well. The way he was using some dolly shots and camera movements, great production design as well, set design, and, great performance from Sosie. And she's really impressive in this movie. I've never really seen her anything before. And she really sold the fear, the dread, the horror, how her life was basically ending. And so she's possessed, and I'll get into the ending of the movie right now. And she's trying to combat it. She's trying to learn as much as she can about it. Sure, her marriage is falling apart. She's trying to figure things out with her ex-boyfriend, who is a detective, and she ends up tracking through the victims of these horrific suicides someone who's survived this chain of events, because what he did, this person who's in jail, is he ended up killing somebody very traumatically to pass the curse on to somebody else. He killed someone traumatically in front of somebody else. And that was the only way that he could figure out to pass it on. And it did work. However, he's still living in fear. But I mean, I'm sure like most people, he'd much rather live in jail than just be dead and potentially lose his soul entirely. And so, she has fantasies of doing this and thinks about doing it, but she can't get up to it. So basically, she thinks that what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely isolate myself from everybody. I'm going to run away, and I go back to my childhood home, and I face my traumas, I face my past. Maybe then I can beat it. And, for a few minutes, you think she's going to succeed. You think Rose is going to stop it, and she confronts the past, and we learn that she let her mother OD. She was in a abusive household, and she thought her mother was a monster, and she was scared, and her mother was ODing, and she needed help, and she let her mother die. And now Rose has been dealing with this trauma and guilt for her entire life, and you can assume that's why she works basically 2-3 days straight at a time at the hospital, picking up shifts constantly helping people, because she's probably trying to relieve some of the grief she feels for letting her mother die. That's probably why she went into this profession of being a mental health therapist. She goes through therapy herself and goes back to her therapist as well in this movie. So I think that's a great theme of facing your past and facing your trauma and guilt head on. And she thinks she defeats this spirit by lighting it on fire, lighting the house on fire. But in the back of your head, you're like, there's no way you can just light this demonic presence on fire and call it a day, because it comes back. And also the way it showed itself in this massive beast-like form of a morphed version, like a transformer version, human version of her mother, into this monstrous being 10 feet tall coming after her. And unfortunately for Rose, she did not turn her phone off, and obviously her ex's detective probably is able to trace her phone to this old house, this abandoned home, from her family. Maybe he even knew about it. That's why he got there. He shows up, and now the demon comes back, the spirit comes back, and now it has somebody to witness the suicide, takes over Rose's body officially, kills herself by lighting her on fire traumatically in front of her ex-boyfriend to pass on this curse and possession to him now. Terrific ending. Means there'll be a succession in the film, in the franchise. This is definitely gonna get a sequel. I mean, the success of this movie alone, if it just doubled its budget, would have got a sequel. But to make $180, $190 million on $17 million budget, you bet your ass it's going to get another movie. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. It might be my favorite horror movie of the year. I know there's a lot of mixed feelings about it. And I say that because I think Nope I loved a lot. Nope's in my top 10, but I don't completely consider Nope a horror movie. I think that's very much a sci-fi. I say it's like a sci-fi movie first. Anytime there's aliens involved, I'm putting that in sci-fi category as well as horror, obviously, because Jordan Peele's a horror director. But I think when it comes to just a straight up horror movie, this might be the best one of the year so far. And I really enjoyed it. And I can't wait to see the sequel. I hope they do make it because, I loved It Follows a lot, and I love possessions. I love curse movies. They're might be my favorite kind of horror movies. They're so interesting. And again, the director showed me something new, showed me something I'd never seen before. And I think they did a terrific job, and I think they deserve all the success they found with this film because of not only having a great movie, but incredible marketing campaign. Really top-notch. Like marketing campaigns that they used to do before, like social media and internet, because a lot of studios and movies, they think they can just market their movie on Twitter and Instagram and call it a day. But you got to get out there, and if you want to get eyeballs on a new movie from a director no one's ever heard of, you got to do things like this and get interesting and get unique and catch people's attention. And I think this movie really did. I think that's one of the reasons why it was so successful. But in addition to being a great movie. So that wraps my mini review on Smile. Thanks for tuning in to Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Become a patron today at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast for as little as $2. Take care, everybody. Raiders of the Lost Podcast is a mirror image production. Sound mixing done by Jacob Kossler. Opening music by Chase Jackson.